Hello, my name is Marie Claire, and I'm stepping in for Samuel today. I'm going to be your MC this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for the latest Kumi Now online gathering as we bring you a special session to finish out our year together. After today, we're going to be taking a break for a couple of weeks, but don't worry, we're going to be back in 2024. But before we take a break, we have a special organization who's joining us today. AMLE, the Arab Center for the Advancement of Social Media, is with us to give a workshop on how to secure your online privacy while engaging in activism for Palestine. We are joined today by Shakib El-Jabri. Shakib is a Syrian human rights defender and a specialist in digital security planning for organizations. He has worked with several at-risk groups from the Middle East region over the past decade to improve their skills and increase their resilience to digital threats. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you that this session is being broadcast live on Facebook. If you do not wish to appear, please turn off your video feed. Shakib, can you please tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about your organization, and then feel free to get started on our workshop. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Mary Claire read the short bio there. I don't know what else to tell you about myself. Of I basically work exclusively with nonprofits, and I started mainly in campaigning and media development, and bit by bit, I found myself doing more and more organizational security work until this became my primary focus. And because of the clients I've chosen, I tend to work with, and because of the languages I speak, I tend to work with organizations in what we call the Arabic speaking region. And those are usually organizations that face high risk. So those who provide LGBT support services in countries where it's illegal to be gay, support services for women in less free countries, and so on. I work with Hamli part-time, part of the digital security program. And in this portion, we work with our partner organizations to make sure that their digital security needs, of course, are met. And for those who are functional organizations, we try to be, let's say, their backup in case they need to fall back on something because of a digital security threat. I mentioned I work with organizations, so it's usually in a very specific and highly organized context, but I do also work with groups. Our focus today is going to be on personal account security because that always takes the lead. We're at the end of the year when my colleagues and I do a sort of informal review. One thing that's every year and still actually this year, which is account compromise, is still the number one digital security issue by a good margin. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to be sharing a presentation. The presentation itself is in Arabic, and I apologize for that. I'll be speaking in English throughout. And if you have any question, just type it in the chat and Marie Claire would read it for me. Or if you feel you need to interrupt, just unmute and interrupt. Our focus is going to be on account security. We're going to go over that. And then I'll leave some time for questions. All right. So when we talk about account security, people tend to jump immediately to email account and more recently social media accounts. accounts are actually much more than that. Anything where you need to identify yourself is an account. This could be e-government services, obviously your bank account for one thing. You might have home services, you might have shopping accounts. All of these are important, and it's important to pay attention to all of them and make sure that all of them are secure. So when we say account security, we're not just talking about the email, but I need to emphasize that email is tends to be among the top, because usually through the email, if somebody hacks the email, they can continue on forward to hack your other accounts. I'm sure you've encountered the prompt where, have you forgotten your password? We'll send you an email reset link. Well, yeah. And if I have your email, then I'm the person getting your reset link and resetting the password to what I like. Okay. The reasons for account compromise are plentiful. Uh, at the top is to impersonate somebody or to use their account for any purpose to pretend to be them. Another consequence of account loss is losing important information, and this is in the context of uh, businesses and organizations. Um, so they might have important information that's on their online drives that they have not backed up. On a personal level, it could be memories. I'm sure quite a bunch of you have only um, your photos that you've taken with your camera on an online drive. You've switched devices and you haven't bothered to take it down, a download copy, put it online, offline, and save somewhere. So yeah, and this is something I've experienced where Apple users are totally dependent on the automatic iCloud backup, and they lose their devices and they lose their accounts with it, and there's no getting back those photos anymore. Account loss can lead to even bigger loss, such as uh, exposure of secrets, being subjected to exploitation, financial loss. And here we're not only talking in terms of getting into somebody's bank account, or I forgot what your cash app is called, Venmo, I think. Yeah. It could be, for example, theft of trade secrets. And finally, um, in terms of smart homes, hacking an account can actually be used to cause damage to property. This would be a scenario where they would disable the controls on your heating system and turn up the temperature in your house to 80 degrees. Sorry, that would be Celsius, um, to 180 Fahrenheit, and damage your furniture, if not getting the water boiler to explode and so on. There are protections against these. These aren't as common anymore, but there are things that are possible. There are things that are happen. I'm not talking about potential pie in the sky scenarios. All of these are cases that we have dealt with. So the water boiler thing was one scenario that we dealt with one time, but I mean, it's just to demonstrate how extensive the damage can be. Okay.
Laurie, when you have a second, would you switch to presentation mode for the slides, if that's not a problem for you? Wonderful. That way people can see them a little clearer, those who read Arabic. Thanks so much.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. All right. So, of course, the first protection for our accounts is the password. You might have heard about second factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. And people tend not to stop and think, why second factor? What are the other factors? Yeah, well, the password is the first factor of authentication, and it literally is a factor of authentication. You're being asked to give the secret word to verify your identity. And that's what we call a factor. We add additional factors to make sure that you're being asked for several different questions to verify your identity. And we'll get to the other factors a bit later. But as the password is the first factor, it's also the most important factor, and it's important that we take it seriously. Until now, we encounter cases where the password was password 123. I mean, it's a step up from password 12, but not much. So, password, it's important to follow good password construction guidelines and to take password security seriously. And we're going to go over um, the best requirements, the best practices. I have a thing over the text I'm supposed to be reading. So, yeah. So first of all, we say password has to be complex. That means it needs to have an uppercase, a lowercase letter, a number, and a symbol. Mixing these up, jumbling these up, makes it difficult for the computer to try every single possibility. So one of the ways of cracking passwords is what's called a brute force attack. A brute force attack is when a computer, on the behalf of a person, tries every single combination. That would be, we know that a password can be a minimum of 8 characters long. So the computer would start with A, and so on until we get to 999999989. Of course, this takes a long time, and the more complicated we make the password, the more difficult it is for the computer to get to that possibility and try it. Next up, password length. And right now, we're recommending 16 characters at the minimum. So for a password to be secure, it needs to be at least 16 characters. I'll explain why, but I won't go into details. It's tied directly to what I mentioned earlier about the brute force attacks, about trying every single possibility. So trying every single possibility with 16 characters, using all of the computing power available right now, would still take 100 years to crack the password. Okay. Now, no rational hacker would try every single possibility. We have things called hashing tables. I'm not going to explain them on a technical level, but hashing tables take the encrypted version of your password in a database and spit out the plain text version, which is the way you wrote it. These tables are readily available. They can be bought on the darknet. Hackers have easy access to them. And using 16 characters makes sure that even if a hacker is using one of these tables and all the computing power available on this planet right now, they would still need more than 100 years to guess your password. 4 years ago, we were saying 14 characters. Now it's 16. And no, we're not going to come back in 2 years and tell you it has to be 18. with 16 is factored well into 2030. Okay. This password has to be non-personal. So avoid using passwords that yeah, that make references to significant aspects of your life. Again, one password that we encounter is elder child's name, last two digits of birthday, younger child's name, last two digits of birthday. Yeah, that's a guessable password. Um, avoid location, avoid anniversary, avoid anything that can be easily guessed about you. Try to use phrases or sentences instead of words. So instead of a password, try passphrase. I can tell you that one way of doing it is to take a sentence that wouldn't occur to anybody. One exercise I do is I take um, a line, not the name of a song, a line, a verse from a song, an English language song. I translate it to Arabic, then I write it with Latin characters. Okay, this is something that's a lot more available to those of us who speak several languages, but the idea is to take something that means something to us without being personal, and then we can garble it up, which is a way of encryption. Okay, I'm seeing the number in the chat is going up, and is there something I need to check now?
For the most part, there aren't any questions in the chat. There's just one thing. If you have time, someone would like to hear your thoughts on password managers. So for example, Bitwarden. Are there others? Are there some that are more secure than others or some better than others? What do you think in general about password managers?
Okay, we'll be getting to that. I hope I spelled it right. So I put a URL for you in the chat. Yes, so everybody please go to the address I gave you in the chat, haveibeenpawned.com. And of course, I put the wrong address. Sorry, let me. Okay, so it's without the A. The second address in the chat is the correct one, and this one is the proper link. So if everybody please go to haveibeenpawned.com without the A, the second link over there. Okay, now I'm sharing mine. So I'm going to type in my email address. And if you're looking at my screen, you will see that, yeah, I have been pawned. Okay, you see it's nice, all red, and it says I've been pawned in 13 data breaches and one paste. Again, I'm not going to go into the technical differences between them. It's just the way hackers share passwords with each other. Uh, but this is a website that goes on the darknet and goes on hacker forums and buys databases of breached accounts. Okay. So when hackers breached Yahoo's password database and offered it for sale, this website bought it. And of course, they don't do this with sinister intent, but they make it possible for you to enter your email address or phone number and see if your account has been tied to any data breaches. And in my case, my email address, my personal email address, has been tied to 13 data breaches. You see combo list, Apollo, Bitly, collection number one, Cove, Dropbox, etc. So this is a list of different services where I was registered, and the service itself was hacked. So this isn't a case where I was wrong. It was my fault that somebody got my password. I could have done everything right and still ended up on the list because it was these services that were hacked. Okay? And this is why we say you need to use unique passwords, because they hacked this service, they got your password that's tied to your account on this service. Now they will take your username and password combination and go to every other service and tie them there. So you might have gotten a password reset message from Facebook when you weren't expecting one, or you might have gotten a message from Google saying, we've detected attempts to hack your account. This is what has usually happened. Okay. Now, I'm looking at this, and hopefully you've done this for your own accounts. I'm looking at this, and uh, what what on earth is Epic? I don't remember Epic. Okay, well, or let's take here Lead Hunter. Okay, so I never registered for Lead Hunter. But what happened here? Why does Lead Hunter have my info? It's because another service I signed up for, I didn't want to bother maintain its own databases or authentication protocols or whatever, and they used a third party. The third party in this case was Lead Hunter, and they were hacked. So when they were hacked, by extension, all of their clients and all of the clients of their clients or customers of their clients were by extension affected. So yes, it is actually scary and it's unfortunate. Companies are getting a lot better at this. So yeah, but it's still far from perfect. So we use unique passwords. We use secure passwords. If you heard advice that you need to change your password every 6 months or every period of time, yeah, those people are still following advice from 1995 that we've been regretting since 2005. So yeah, you do not need to regularly change your passwords. In fact, many practitioners, such as myself, consider this to be bad advice at the moment, particularly because it encourages people to use weaker passwords. Everything clear so far? Yes, it's safe to put your email into haveibeenpawned.com. We're not going to bother with this today. Just follow the advice I have for you here. Okay. So this used to be somewhere where you can practice password complexity requirements and constructing secure password, but its criteria is too weak for our taste. We're no longer recommending it. And it's Russian, and in light of recent events, or no longer recent events, we're no longer recommending it. Now we're moving to multi-factor authentication. So, yeah, as I mentioned, password is the first factor of authentication. And it's important that we have several factors just to ensure that if somebody gets hold of our password, there is a way to stop them before they can do a lot of damage. So the other factors of authentication are SMS message or texting. This is where you get a message from the service provider with usually a 6-digit number that you enter to verify that your phone is in your hand. We do not recommend this. I'll come back to that in a minute. Authenticated apps, such as Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and Twilio, we'll come back to them, which are most common and most often recommended. And finally, the hardware key, which is also known as a YubiKey. YubiKey is just Yubico is one company. There are several companies that produce them, including Google. Google has Titan keys, which it distributes for free at conferences. And yeah. So the biggest disadvantage with the SMS or the text message is that it's easily hackable. So in non-democratic yes, it is. You need a unique password for every service. We'll get to that once we get to password managers. Yes. So in non-democratic countries, and these are usually countries where the government owns and operates the national communications infrastructure, text messages are not encrypted. They fly in plain text, and it's possible for anybody anywhere to read them. It's really not that difficult. For a state actor and even a non-state actor to get a copy of all the text messages being sent to you and being sent by you and read them. So yeah, keep everything private off the text messages. And yeah, as a security factor, they can be easily intercepted. In the US, I wouldn't recommend it. In Sweden, I'm sorry, but we're going in the same direction as the US Patriot Act and so on. So I wouldn't recommend it. In other European countries, maybe a bit, they still have some protections, but you know. Authenticator apps are a good compromise between security and accessibility. They're free, so accessible, they don't need a budget. Um, I'm sorry, somebody is requesting remote control of my screen. Yeah. So authenticated apps are these apps which you install on your phone. They're produced by several companies, but when they're all based on the same technology, which was initially developed by a company called RSA. They're a security company, and they produce the infrastructure between a lot of security solutions. They're likely used by your bank. It's just important that when you download and set up an app, you use one by a reputed company, and I'll have recommendations for you. All of these three are on a consumer level. On a corporate level, there are more advanced solutions, but they're too cumbersome for a regular individual, and they're too costly when they're not being expensed by corporate. Finally, amongst the consumer level factors of authentication, there's the hardware key. I have this. I use this on any accounts where I can set it up. I was lucky that I got mine for free at conferences. You need to have at least two because if you lose one, you're locked out of your accounts. There are very, very, very few companies that will give you back your account if you lost your security key. And even then, usually they will empty it out completely before resolving the issue for you. So in my case, I'm actually using 3 security keys, one on my keychain, one backup in a secure place, and one in the vault of my lawyer's office in case something happens to me. Which obviously means that I have tripled the expense. And I mean, they're not prohibitively expensive. They're usually around $55, usually obtainable for 30, 35. But I mean, if you're talking to, and if you're an NGO with 100 employees, yeah, it can add up rather quickly. So authenticator apps, the 3 we recommend are Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and Authy, which is developed by a company called Twilio. You might have not heard of it, but it's respected. And for activists at the intersection of technology, such as myself, we tend to go to it, recommend it more than the other two, particularly because it's a smaller company, and where we can avoid big tech, we do that. Google's biggest disadvantage for a very long time was that it had no backup option. It had no account transfer option. So when you buy a new device, you have to manually recreate key pairs on your new device for each of your accounts, which could be a headache if you have 150 accounts. Okay. Microsoft has a built-in option, a built-in backup option, if you create your account as a Microsoft account. So any email address can be made into a Microsoft account. It doesn't have to be Google or Microsoft 365. This is the advantage of this is the advantage of the Microsoft app, but also you might want to avoid big tech. I understand that. In that case, yeah. So Authy has a backup option. If you want to use Authy's backup option, you have to provide it with a phone number and an email for backup. At that point, it will create a backup for you, which you can transfer from device to device. Even you can set up a periodic backup if you lose your device. you can you know, restore it. Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, it actually goes. It goes worse than that. I mean, changing your phone, you're making a willful decision to change your phone. Forgetting your phone on the bus is a whole other major headache that you didn't prepare for. So, yeah. Yeah. And Valerie, you mean the URLs? They're not email addresses, they're web addresses. Yeah, they're overlapped in the text, not only the visuals. They're not necessary, we're not doing an exercise. In other cases, I have my trainees do it, but we don't have the time today. So you won't be downloading it. On your own time, you need to choose one of them. I briefly went over the positives and negatives of the three companies. These are the three providers we recommend, and they all work the same way. So you choose whichever one works best for you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly devastating that I'm starting to have to give the same advice to people in Europe and the US that I used to give to people in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. But yeah, we're starting to treat protest with the same risk level as we did in non-democratic countries. So, okay. Any questions about authenticators before we go move on to password wallets? All right. So password wallets, or you might have heard of them as password managers. They're applications that you can install on your devices, desktop, mobile, stationary, or laptop, all the same. Um, they're basically highly secure databases of your usernames and passwords and where they can be used. And they make it easier to have several passwords and to have different passwords for different services. Most of them have integration. So if on a desktop or on a um, computer device browser, you can install the extension and it will automatically memorize passwords for you and enter passwords when you need them. Password wallets, yeah, the big difference between them and having an Excel sheet with all your passwords, usernames, and websites is that these are highly encrypted. They're designed in a way where hacking them is extremely difficult and they have security features. And of course, as I mentioned, they can be integrated to fill in your username and password. As of Android 13, they also integrate with Android. So not flawlessly, but for example, I use Bitwarden. When Bitwarden detects that I opened a field, um, I'm typing in a password field in another application, it automatically offers to get the password for me from the database. And that way I only have to memorize one secure password, which is the password of my password wallet or database. Now I want to underline over here that now you have one password to access all your other passwords. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that this password be extremely secure. that you follow the password complexity requirements. Okay. And also to activate two-factor authentication on your password wallet or your password manager. Okay. So there are a lot of password managers out there. Usually when we recommend that you disable password management that's included in your browser or your operating system. Honestly, the built-in solutions are good enough these days, but we do recommend that you use dedicated password managers. So when I have a training with practical exercises, I do have my trainees go into their browser, whichever one they're using, disable the option to offer to save passwords, and instead integrate their password manager. For password managers, we recommend, we being digital security practitioners who also have an intersection with human rights, because we do care about this aspect. It's just that it's open source. Open source is not only a matter of the software being free, it also means that the source that was used to develop the application is available for other experts to review. So when Bitwarden makes a claim that it does not have access to the passwords that are stored in its client databases, we can review the code and make sure that Bitwarden is not lying about this claim. Yeah. And so Bitwarden is one recommendation. Bitwarden's advantage is that it has a free version, and the free version is good enough for most applications. And it's online, so it has automatic sync. The other application we recommend is called KeyPass, key with double E. So I'm writing it in the chat. KeyPass XC, XC for class platform. This is another open source software. It's not available as a website. You cannot sync between your computer and your mobile device. If you make a change to a password in your database on your laptop, you either have to copy the database manually to your phone, or you need to find another solution. We usually do this in some scenarios, which we don't have the time to go over, but the point to emphasize here is that KeyPass is fully free. It does not have a commercial option, but it also does not have a syncing option. So you're responsible for all the changes you make. Like this, I say that Bitwarden is a bit more end user friendly. Yeah. And yeah, this is, one point that's less relevant to you, which is neither Bitwarden nor KeyPass is available in Arabic. But yeah. So the time we have left, the immediate question should be about the topics that we have covered. And if there are more questions about digital security in general, and we have time, I'll be glad to take them.
Thank you so much for an excellent and very informative presentation, which I think will help all of us as we continue in our activism to make sure our accounts are secure. If anyone has any questions, please add them to the chat. I think you've done an excellent job today of answering questions as we go, so we might not have quite so many questions coming in. Lots of, okay, people saying thank you for taking time to explain and help. Does anyone have any questions you'd like to ask? Feel free to put it into the chat. While people are thinking, I have a question on a slightly different topic than what you've covered, but many of us are involved in organizing in terms of organizing demonstrations or organizing activism through our phones. Is there a app that's more secure than others? So I know WhatsApp is very popular among people. Some people are using Signal, some people are using Telegram in these days. Is there one that you would recommend over others?
Okay, so there was a note in the chat that people are using Signal. Yeah. WhatsApp is as secure as Signal. The issue with WhatsApp is political rather than a security thing. It's just it's owned by Meta, which is a company that's behaved in ways that human rights defenders disagree with, and we try to avoid it. For those of you in the US, Meta has, or for those of you outside the EU and the EEA, what because WhatsApp cannot read the content of the messages you're sending, they did a policy update a couple of years ago, which basically says that they can use any information they can to couple your WhatsApp identity with your other Meta identities so that they can advertise to you. Okay. Those of us in the EU have a protection against that. On a security level, I mean, WhatsApp is licensing the encryption technology from Signal, so it's the same thing. Okay. What we do recommend sometimes is splitting the personal and the professional. So I recommend to organizations which I work with on longer term interventions, like for work, stick to Signal.
Okay, thank you very much. I see that there is one question that just popped into the chat. I'll read it out loud. Can we use the key fob even if the app company doesn't have it established? Are you locked into the company's security other than password complexity? This was from Genevieve. Does that make sense to you, or should I ask for a clarification?
The first part, yes. The second part, I'm not sure which company's security are we talking about.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure either. Genevieve, would you mind, Genevra, sorry, I think I said your name wrong. Would you mind explaining a bit about the second question, and maybe we'll start with the first? Okay, so I think she's wondering, are you locked in? If your credit card union has a specific form of security, are you locked into using their system? Or is it possible to add your own system or choose your own system?
No, what they make available, that's it. So yeah, so for example, my bank won't let me use they never programmed in the functionality for me to use my hardware key, so I can't. Bitwarden, okay, the password wallet I recommend, won't let you use a hardware key with a free account. So if you have a paid account, you can use a hardware key. If you have a free account, you cannot. What they make available is up to them. Usually it's they don't want to pay for the licensing, but sometimes they want to impose their own security solution. So it could be a bank that has its own key and insists its clients use that.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for one more question before we begin to wrap up. If anyone has anything else they want to post in the chat.
Yeah. So emailing folk in Palestine, I'm not sure why you would be warned against that. There are several concerns more against them than against you, but it depends who they are and why they're being monitored. But what I can say is that uh, email is not a secure form of communication, or unencrypted email is not a secure form of communication.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any last words that you'd like to leave us with today? Oh, wait, there's one more question. I didn't catch the political problem with WhatsApp. Can it be repeated, please? Someone's posted in the chat.
Yeah, it's just that Meta is a horrible company.
Yes, thank you. So I think we've answered all of the questions that were coming through the chat. And Ryan's putting in some more information about Meta, like the fact that it's owned by Facebook and there's been some controversies there. Okay, one more question. Could you maybe make a brief comment on the usefulness of VPNs?
Sure. So VPNs, they create a tunnel between you and an external server. This tunnel is blinded to everybody looking inside. Think of it as a car on a road that's driving normally versus a car, the same car on the road, but driving with smoked windows. With the smoked windows, nobody can see inside. That's the difference between VPN and non-VPN. You're still using the same road. It's just that the government, the service provider, the whoever cannot look at the data that's passing through their system. At the end of the day, you're still emerging out of this tunnel somewhere, and where you're emerging can see everything. So it's important that the company you're using is a company you can trust. So, for example, in the Middle East, you might want to avoid letting your internet provider be able to detect that you're reading Israeli news websites. So you would use VPN, and they won't be able to see where you're going, but they'll still be able to see that you're using VPN. And you want to make sure that the VPN provider is not a company with bad ethics or a company with a jurisdiction that can be subpoenaed and forced to give information.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And again, thank you so much for such an informative presentation. I think we all learned a lot about keeping our personal information more secure. I want to thank everyone else for also joining us on this call today. A video link of our gathering, along with all the links shared today, will be available on the Kumi Now website and on YouTube in a day or so. And you can also subscribe to Kumi Now on YouTube and to our newsletter to make sure that you receive them. I also want to remind you that we're not going to be having our webinar, Kumi Now, for the next couple of weeks. However, we have exciting plans for 2024, and we're going to be sharing more about those plans in a newsletter. So please stay tuned for that. Shakib, I just want to thank you again for joining us. And before we go, I would like to remind everyone of our urgent actions for this week. So these, again, will all be in your newsletter that you should have received by email. but I'll just quickly go over the actions that we're asking you to do. I want to remind you that if you're in the UK, we're asking you to support and share Sabeel-Kairos's UK Christmas appeal. And more information about the details of that, again, will be in the newsletter. Second, if you're in North America and also just everyone around the world, we want you to continue to call for a ceasefire. That is so important. If you're in Canada and the US, you can continue to use Fact Zero as we've used in other weeks. You can email, and of course, you can always call your representatives. That's also very important. So make those phone calls. We also want to thank you for being with us throughout 2023. We want to thank you for your consistent work and advocacy with regards to calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. And we look forward to engaging in activism with all of you in 2024.